case of Adrienne Jones. In 1995, 16-year-old Adrienne Jessica Jones was a junior at Mansfield High School, where she instantly became a beloved figure on campus. Her classmates and teachers admired her kindness, intelligence, and infectious spirit. Academically, Adrienne thrived, consistently excelling in the classroom and taking advanced honors courses that challenged her to excel. To ensure her success, she dedicated at least 2 hours to studying each night, and her hard work paid off with consistently high grades. After graduating from Mansfield High School, Adrienne had big plans to become a veterinarian and help animals. In addition to excelling academically, Adrienne was also an impressive athlete. She was a member of the girls' soccer team, demonstrating remarkable skill and dedication on the field. However, an unfortunate injury during a game forced her to temporarily withdraw from the team. Instead of losing her passion for sports, she joined the girls' cross-country team, which allowed her to maintain an active lifestyle and get into better shape. Adrienne Jessica Jones rose to the challenge and worked relentlessly to enhance her physical fitness. Through her unwavering determination and commitment, she rapidly established herself as a vital member of the cross-country team. Simultaneously, Adrienne navigated her academic pursuits and athletic endeavors while maintaining a considerable workload outside of the classroom, clocking 20 hours a week at Golden Fried Chicken, a local fast food restaurant. Adrienne reveled in the attention she received, particularly from the teenage boys in Mansfield, and one of her closest friends affectionately referred to her as a big flirt. She devoted at least 2 hours daily to meticulously applying her makeup, ensuring she looked flawless. Like most teenagers, Adrienne pushed against her parents' rules. Despite her kind heart, she had 2 younger brothers, and her parents were especially cautious about her safety, since Mansfield was going through changes and crime was on the rise in the area. To protect her, her parents set a strict weekend curfew of just after 9 p.m. If Adrienne wanted to go out, she had to tell her parents her plans, such as visiting a theme park or watching a movie, and provide a ticket stub as proof. To prevent her from sneaking out, Adrienne's father even nailed her bedroom window shut. On Sunday, December 3rd, 1995, Adrienne's parents made an exception and let her stay up late so she could talk to her boyfriend, Tracy Smith, on the phone. Tracy was away with his parents for the weekend, but Adrienne really wanted to catch up with him. During the call, Adrienne's mother overheard her mention that another call was coming in. When her mother asked who it was, Adrienne said it was David, a teammate from her cross-country team, and that he seemed upset about something. The morning after Adrienne went missing, her family woke up and got ready for work as they normally would. But Adrienne's mother became worried when she heard Adrienne's alarm still going off in her bedroom. She went to check on her because it was unusual for Adrienne not to turn off her alarm. When she entered the bedroom, she didn't find Adrienne, and the bed was still made, suggesting that no one had slept in it the previous night. Adrienne's mother tried to stay calm, realizing her 16-year-old daughter was missing. She briefly thought Adrienne might have gone for a morning run, but this idea was quickly dismissed when she saw Adrienne's running shoes on the bedroom floor. Although Adrienne had sneaked out at night to meet friends before, she had never stayed out all night. This worried her mother, who contacted the police with her father, concerned about Adrienne's safety. Unbeknownst to them, a man on his farm miles away had just made a disturbing discovery. At approximately 7 a.m. on Seton Road in Grand Prairie, Texas, about 10 miles from Mansfield, a man made a disturbing discovery while walking to his mailbox. Noticing his property's gate had been knocked down, he went onto the farm to investigate. There, he was met with an unexpected and alarming sight. Initially, he thought the lump on the ground was roadkill, but as he got closer, he realized it was much more sinister: the lifeless body of a deceased teenage girl. The man immediately called the police after finding the body on the farmland. When they arrived, they were met with a chilling sight. The teenager had suffered 2 gunshot wounds, one to her left cheek and one to her forehead, indicative of an execution-style killing. Furthermore, the police observed severe head injuries in addition to the gunshot wounds. The teenager's arms and legs were also covered in scrapes and bruises, a result of her desperate attempt to escape through the barbed wire gate at the front of the farm. She had clearly fought for her life. Even more disturbingly, the murdered teenager was found dressed in night clothes, implying she had been preparing for bed when her life was tragically cut short. The officers suspected a possible link to gang violence or drug activity, given the execution-style nature of the killing. Following the discovery of the girl's body on the farm, the Grand Prairie Police took swift action and sent out a teletype to all nearby agencies. This teletype included a basic description of the victim, including her approximate age, height, weight, and other physical characteristics. The aim was to share this information and raise awareness, hoping another agency might have a missing person matching the Grand Prairie victim. It wasn't long before the Mansfield police got in touch with the Grand Prairie officers. Through their investigation, the Mansfield police were able to identify the murdered teenager as Adrienne Jones. After identifying the deceased teenager as Adrienne, the police then had to notify her worried parents about the tragic turn of events. When Adrienne's mother was notified of her daughter's death by the police, she was devastated. As news of the murder spread quickly through the small town of Mansfield, Adrienne's classmates and friends at Mansfield High School were shocked and grief-stricken. Classes were disrupted, and students comforted each other as they struggled to come to terms with the loss of their peer. The town of Mansfield was on high alert following the gruesome discovery of Adrienne Jones's body in a field. Rumors and theories circulated about the possible circumstances surrounding her tragic death, with some speculating that she might have been involved in the drug trade. Others wondered if a serial killer was hiding in their community. Adrienne's parents cooperated with the police investigation, providing crucial information about their daughter's final hours. Her mother recalled a phone conversation Adrienne had with her boyfriend, Tracy, and another teenager, David, who joined the call. Additionally, one of Adrienne's younger brothers reported hearing a car engine outside their house around midnight, and upon investigation, he saw a pickup truck speeding away from the scene. The police were determined to identify the mysterious David who had called Adrienne on the night of her murder as part of their efforts to gather more information. To this end, they turned to Adrienne's cross-country coach, who revealed that one of the team members was a boy named David Graham. However, the coach was surprised to learn that David would have been calling Adrienne, as she had never observed any interactions between the two. David Graham was a driven teenager with big aspirations. After watching his first air show at 7, he set his sights on becoming an Air Force pilot. A popular student at Mansfield High, David charmed his peers, especially girls, but saved his heart for Diane Zamora, a high-achieving senior who shared his military dreams. Following Adrienne's murder, the police interviewed David Graham, who acknowledged knowing Adrienne from their time on the cross-country team, but claimed their relationship never went beyond a casual acquaintance. When questioned about contacting Adrienne on the night of her death, David vehemently denied any involvement, stating he was at home studying with his girlfriend, Diane Zamora, at the time. The police thoroughly investigated David as a potential suspect in Adrienne's murder. As part of this effort, they reached out to Adrienne's friends to determine if she had ever mentioned David. One of Adrienne's closest friends revealed that she was privy to Adrienne's deepest secrets, but had never discussed David. Furthermore, when the police examined Adrienne's phone book, they found that David's number was not listed. This discovery reinforced the police's belief that David was not involved in Adrienne's murder, and as a result, they never even considered administering a polygraph test to him. Ultimately, the police cleared David of suspicion and removed him from their list of suspects. After David, the police suspected Adrienne's boyfriend, Tracy Smith, in connection with her murder. However, they quickly cleared him when they confirmed his alibi. He was out of town with his family on the night of the murder. Moreover, Tracy passed a polygraph examination, further solidifying his innocence. During the police interview, Tracy mentioned a person who he thought should be investigated in relation to Adrian's murder. He told them that Adrian had informed him about a guy named Brian who had called while they were on the phone on the night of her murder. The police launched an investigation into Brian's identity and discovered that he was a local teenager named Brian McMillian. While investigating Brian, the police made a significant discovery. They found out that Brian used to work at a pharmacy near a restaurant where Adrian previously worked and had become infatuated with her. Brian often visited the restaurant to catch a glimpse of Adrian, but she grew tired of his constant presence and began hiding in the back whenever she saw him coming. The police questioned Brian McMillian about the murder of Adrian Jones. At first, he claimed to know nothing about her. However, during the interview, Brian later admitted to knowing Adrian. When an officer asked if he had spoken to Adrian on the night she was murdered, Brian said he couldn't remember. According to Brian, he was drinking on the night of the murder because he was feeling depressed and lonely. When an officer asked if he had visited Adrian's house the night she was killed, Brian said he might have done so. At the end of the interview, the police asked Brian's father if he would allow Brian to take a polygraph test, but his father refused. 1 week after the interview, the police raided Brian's house, armed with guns, because they were unsure if he might be armed during the arrest. This decision was made to ensure the safety of everyone involved, as the police suspected Brian might have a weapon. After Brian's arrest for Adrian's murder, many people came forward to express their support for him. His friends described him as a gentle and non-violent person. Moreover, Brian's father confirmed that his son was at home all night when Adrian was killed and did not leave the house. Brian spent 3 weeks in jail, missing Christmas and New Year's, while awaiting further investigation and legal proceedings. During this time, the district attorney's office arranged for Brian to take a polygraph test, which he passed convincingly. With this outcome, the district attorney's office was left with little evidence to link Brian to Adrian's murder, and as a result, they released him from custody. 9 months into the Adrian murder probe, Mansfield, Texas police got a break from Annapolis, Maryland, where Diane Zamora was at the Naval Academy. Officers said she confessed to fellow cadets that she and boyfriend David Graham killed Adrian Jones in Mansfield. Mansfield police went to Annapolis to interview Diane, who denied making the admission. Despite this, the Naval Academy suspended her pending investigation. The police, unable to get information from Diane, went to Colorado Springs, Colorado, to question David Graham at the Air Force Academy. When they interviewed David, he initially claimed to have no idea why Diane would fabricate a story about killing Adrian Jones. However, as the interview progressed, David began to show signs of nervousness and requested to write a statement. In a detailed 4.5-page confession letter, David revealed how he and his girlfriend Diane had planned and carried out the murder of Adrian Jones. In the letter, David described a specific incident in November 1995 where he offered to drive Adrian home, during which they stopped at an elementary school parking lot and had sexual intercourse. David confessed that he felt overwhelming guilt after this encounter, as he deeply loved his girlfriend Diane and knew his actions would cause her immense pain. One evening, while David was helping Diane study for her SATs, a heated argument broke out between them. Overwhelmed with guilt, David finally confessed to being unfaithful, breaking down in tears as he sat on the couch and revealed to Diane that he had not remained faithful to her. He then detailed his encounter with Adrian. After David confessed to his infidelity with Adrian, Diane was devastated. The betrayal left her heart shattered, feeling hurt and enraged. Her anger boiled over, and she lashed out at David, arguing and screaming at him, even wishing he were dead and harboring intense hatred towards Adrian. Diane's emotions were overwhelming, and she struggled to come to terms with what had happened. David admitted that he promised Diane he would do whatever it took to salvage their relationship. He claimed that he and Diane came to the conclusion that the only way to restore their love was to take drastic action: murder Adrian Jones. David wrote in his confession letter that on December 3rd, he called Adrian Jones and asked her to secretly meet him late at night. He made her promise not to tell anyone about their meeting. Initially, David planned to get Adrian alone, attack her, and then dispose of her body in a lake at 2:30 a.m. David picked up Adrian in his car, with Diane hiding in the hatchback. When they reached a secluded spot 10 miles out of town, David turned off the highway onto Satan Road. He stopped the car, and Adrian slightly adjusted her seat, making it seem like they were about to be intimate. However, David had secretly signaled for Diane to come out. Diane emerged from the trunk and walked around to the front of the car. As she approached, she confronted Adrian, who was seated in the passenger seat. Diane then hit Adrian in the head with a weight from David's gym set. Despite being severely injured, Adrian didn't die. Amazingly, Adrian managed to crawl out of the car window and escape. David and Diane were in a state of panic, prompting David to grab his 9mm Makarov weapon and chase after Adrian. Due to her severe head wound, Adrian didn't get far and collapsed in a nearby field. When David caught up to her, he shot her twice before returning to his car. After Adrian's death, the first words exchanged between Diane and David were, "I love you." Following David's confession to murdering Adrian, the police returned to question Diane, who had a confession of her own. As a result, David and Diane were arrested and charged with capital murder. However, both later retracted their confessions. David claimed that Diane was the sole perpetrator, while Diane alleged that David acted alone. In 1998, Adrian's mother submitted a petition to the court, requesting that the death penalty be removed as an option for David and Diane. Diane's trial started in February of that year. In court, several witnesses stated that Diane showed no remorse for murdering Adrian Jones. After deliberating, the jury delivered a guilty verdict on February 17th, convicting Diane of capital murder. As a result, Diane was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole in 40 years. Similarly, David Graham was also found guilty of Adrian Jones's murder and received a life sentence with parole eligibility in 40 years. The case of Matthew Phelps. Lauren and Matt Phelps first met in middle school, but they didn't become close friends back then. Years later, when they were both 26, Matt reached out to Lauren on Instagram, sparking an unexpected reconnection. Lauren accepted his request and started following him back. Curious, Matt checked out Lauren's page and found himself liking every post he saw. There was something about her that drew him in. As they started talking and texting daily, Lauren and Matt discovered they shared many common interests, including a love for Harry Potter, Star Wars, and other geeky stuff. Their conversations were filled with laughter and excitement, and their friendship quickly grew into something more. One of the things Lauren found particularly appealing about Matt was his strong faith. Having grown up in a Christian household, Lauren valued her relationship with God, and she was relieved to find that Matt felt the same way. Their shared beliefs and values brought her comfort and peace. To the outside world, Lauren and Matt seemed like the perfect couple, deeply in love and filled with joy and happiness. Everyone around them thought they had found their soulmates, and it was only a matter of time before Matt proposed to Lauren. However, Lauren's father was not convinced. He had always been protective of his daughter and was worried about her well-being and safety. The thought of her marrying someone he barely knew filled him with concern. After the engagement, their loved ones threw a party to celebrate the exciting news. Lauren was over the moon and wore a stunning white dress. But things took an unexpected turn when Matt's mother arrived, also wearing white. It was clear that she was not happy about her son's decision to marry Lauren, and her actions were seen as an apparent act of disrespect towards her. Lauren's frustration and disappointment boiled over after the engagement party, prompting her to confront Matt about his mother's behavior. When she approached him, Matt downplayed her concerns, explaining that he was raised by his grandparents, not his parents. He further revealed that he didn't have a great relationship with his mother and that her opinions held little significance for him. After getting engaged, Lauren and Matt decided to move to Raleigh, North Carolina in 2016. Despite the move, they remained committed to their Christian values and continued to live a life guided by their faith. Matt worked hard at an in-home care company, earning him the Employee of the Month award, which made Lauren extremely proud of his dedication. Lauren was also a hard worker, often taking on up to 4 part-time jobs in addition to her full-time job at a Fortune 500 company, all in an effort to support their life together. She even contributed to their financial stability by babysitting and working in the church nursery, taking care of children while their parents attended services. Moreover, Lauren had a side business selling candles, an entrepreneurial venture that allowed her to explore various opportunities and pursue her dream of owning her own business, which would give her financial freedom and the chance to create something meaningful. Every Tuesday, Lauren and Matt would visit her parents' house for a game night, an event they both eagerly anticipated. Matt would always arrive on time, enthusiastic about spending quality time with Lauren's family and building connections with them. In November 2016, Lauren and Matt tied the knot in a joyful wedding ceremony in Wake Forest, North Carolina. Their special day was filled with laughter and a touch of their shared love for all things nerdy. A memorable aspect of the wedding was the incorporation of their nerdy passions. The groomsmen wore dapper suits and carried lightsabers, transforming the celebration into a Star Wars-themed extravaganza. After Matt and Lauren got married, problems started to emerge in their relationship. Matt became uneasy about Lauren's close friendship with a male friend from their church. He suspected that the friend had romantic feelings for Lauren and thought their friendship was too intimate. Lauren tried to reassure Matt that she had no feelings for the man and was committed to their marriage. Matt's trust issues stemmed from his past experiences in his first marriage. He confided that his previous spouse had cheated on him while on a mission trip, and when she returned home, she told him she never loved him and was leaving him. The betrayal and abandonment had a lasting impact on Matt, leaving him deeply hurt and struggling to cope for a long time. As their marriage progressed, Matt's unhappiness grew. He transformed from a happy and content person to someone darker and more depressed. It was clear that something was troubling him deeply. Around this time, Matt's attitude towards his faith began to change. He became distant and unhappy about attending church services with Lauren, which was a significant concern for her since her faith was central to her life. Lauren felt frustrated that Matt seemed to dismiss everything she held dear. It was as if his love and appreciation had vanished, leaving a gaping hole in their relationship. Lauren yearned for a deeper emotional bond with her husband, founded on shared values and interests, but Matt appeared indifferent. Matt's newly developed laziness irritated Lauren, who was working multiple jobs to support them. His habit of finding a job, working briefly, and then suddenly quitting became a repetitive issue that caused Lauren immense frustration. What particularly upset her was that Matt was recklessly spending their money, leaving her struggling to replenish it. Lauren and Matt's friends and family tried to help him overcome his depression, but their efforts were met with indifference. Instead of seeking help or engaging in productive activities, Matt would spend hours on end playing video games, fixated on the TV screen. This behavior threatened their financial security and strained their relationship. Lauren sought support from her mother and sister due to Matt's unusual behavior. She confided in them about her exhaustion from working 4 jobs and her disappointment in coming home to a messy house, pending laundry, and unprepared meals. Meanwhile, Matt prioritized playing video games and spending their money. leaving Lauren feeling neglected and overwhelmed. Despite their growing distance and Matt's strange behavior, Lauren remained committed to her marriage and was determined to make it work. Her dedication was evident in her decision to stay by Matt's side despite their challenges. She believed their marriage was worth saving. As Lauren and Matt approached their 4-month wedding anniversary, their relationship was more strained than ever. Matt's decision to skip Tuesday night game night at Lauren's family house raised concerns. This intentional absence hurt Lauren and her family, who saw it as a disrespect towards them. Lauren felt distant from Matt and knew things needed to change. She had expressed her feelings and concerns, but it seemed Matt wasn't listening or didn't care. Lauren was worried that she and her husband Matt were growing apart, and she was determined not to let their love fade away. At this point, Lauren was desperate to salvage their marriage and was willing to try anything to make it succeed. When Matt suggested they take a road trip to Bowling Green, Kentucky, to visit his family, Lauren agreed, thinking that some quality time together could help repair their troubled relationship and bring back the closeness they once shared. When Lauren and Matt arrived in Bowling Green, Kentucky, they were greeted with an unexpected surprise. They had decided to take the trip with Matt's mother, her husband, and his parents. However, things didn't go as planned. Despite traveling together, Matt's mother still had not warmed up to Lauren and continued to give her a cold reception. Throughout the trip, Matt's mother maintained a frosty attitude, creating tension among the group. As the trip progressed, Matt's mother organized a family photo shoot and invited Lauren to join in. Lauren was thrilled to be included in an activity by her mother-in-law, hoping this would mark a turning point in their relationship. A few days before the photo shoot, Matt's mother sent Lauren a text, informing her that everyone would be wearing blue. Eager to follow the instructions, Lauren went out and bought 2 new blue outfits, one for herself and one for Matt. She was looking forward to wearing the outfit she had chosen and being part of the photo shoot. When Lauren and Matt arrived at the designated location, they found that everyone except themselves was wearing white. Confused and disappointed, Lauren asked Matt's mother for an explanation. However, instead of admitting her mistake, Matt's mother became upset with Lauren, making it seem as though Lauren had chosen to wear blue on purpose. Lauren tried to explain that she had followed the instructions and bought blue outfits accordingly, but Matt's mother continued to escalate the situation, eventually canceling the photo shoot. Upon their return from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Lauren and Matt's relationship continued to deteriorate. Matt began spending more time alone, writing in his journals, and displaying increasingly peculiar behavior. Lauren grew worried about these changes in Matt's demeanor. She started to suspect that Matt was stealing money from the fund they had set aside for their future trip to Disney World. Her suspicions deepened when she discovered that Matt might have taken money from her purse without her knowledge. Lauren frequently called her mother in tears, suspecting Matt of stealing from their vacation fund and her purse. In one of these conversations, Lauren confided in her mother that she only had enough money to cover the bills for a month and was unsure how they would cope afterwards. This realization filled Lauren with anxiety and fear, as she knew they were facing a significant financial crisis. When they started their life together, Lauren and Matt had $10,000 in savings, which they believed would provide a secure foundation for their future. However, just a year later, they found themselves struggling financially. Despite their initial optimism, their savings had dwindled significantly due to Matt's excessive spending. One evening, after a long day at work, Lauren texted Matt about their dinner plans. During their conversation, she mentioned that a female coworker had visited their house earlier that day, which sparked concern in Lauren, given the strained state of her marriage to Matt. Lauren couldn't help but wonder if she should be worried that a woman had sought out her husband at their home, and this unease grew as she thought about the truth behind Matt's first marriage. Her curiosity and desire to uncover the truth drove her to investigate further. Matt and his first wife, Brooke, had met in college and dated for 2 years before getting married. Although Brooke forgave Matt after he confessed to kissing another girl early in their relationship, she later revealed that he had cheated on her again right before their wedding. Despite this, Brooke forgave Matt again and married him. Matt and Brooke's marriage rapidly deteriorated after they tied the knot. A major point of contention was Matt's spending habits, which Brooke claimed were beyond their means. Meanwhile, she worked 40 hours a week to support them financially. The prolonged stress of their marriage took a significant toll on Matt and Brooke, causing them to become emotionally detached and slowly drift apart. Ultimately, their union ended in divorce. Lauren dropped a bombshell on her parents. It was Matt who had cheated in his first marriage. Her family was consumed by anger and a sense of betrayal, fearing what Lauren's fiercely protective father might do to Matt if they revealed the truth. So they kept the news to themselves, remaining silent. As Lauren and Matt's marriage continued to unravel, Lauren's frustration with her husband grew dramatically. The discovery of yet another betrayal left their already fragile trust in tatters. Just when Lauren thought she could start rebuilding her faith in their marriage, she discovered Matt had again broken her trust, this time over their finances. On their latest credit card statement, she found he had blown $11,200 on video games and another $100 on gift cards without her knowledge or consent. These reckless purchases only deepened her frustration and fueled her doubts about Matt's commitment to their marriage. Despite Matt's repeated betrayals, Lauren was resolute in saving her marriage. To her, divorce was unthinkable, and she was prepared to do whatever it took to make things work. To address Matt's extravagant spending, Lauren planned an intervention with her mother and sister to confront him and develop a budget plan together. At the intervention, Matt seemed receptive and genuinely willing to make amends and correct their financial issues. He appeared committed to making positive changes in their marriage. However, on August 31st, 2017, the woman Matt used to work with unexpectedly showed up at their doorstep. Lauren was taken aback and upset. Matt told Lauren he was leaving with this woman, claiming she needed his help with something. Lauren was enraged and began sending frantic texts and calls, but Matt ignored her, refusing to respond. Lauren was furious and confided in her sister, venting her frustrations about Matt, whom she believed was ruining her life. She declared that their relationship was over and mentioned that she had already told Matt about her decision to end it on the early morning of September 1st, 2017. Matt Phelps made a frantic 911 call, informing the dispatcher that he thought he had killed his wife. He explained that he had a dream, woke up and found her dead on the floor, with blood all over him and a bloody knife on the bed. Matt sounded terrified, panicked, and unsure of himself, his voice filled with shock and guilt as he spoke to the dispatcher. Matt explained that he suspected he might have killed his wife, attributing it to the quercetin cough and cold medicine he had taken, possibly in excess. He had taken the medication to relieve his symptoms and help him sleep better at night, as he knew it was effective. Quercetin is an over-the-counter medication typically used to alleviate common cold and flu symptoms, comprising a combination of antihistamines, decongestants, and pain relievers that ease nasal congestion, cough, and sore throat. However, it's notable that quercetin can cause side effects such as drowsiness, dizziness, and confusion, particularly when consumed in large quantities or combined with other medications. Matt had just called 911 to report that he had killed his wife when the Raleigh Police Department arrived at their home. The officers found him standing on the front steps and promptly took him into custody to ensure his safety and security. Upon entering the house, they were met with a horrifying scene in the master bedroom. Lauren's lifeless body was found curled up in the fetal position on the bedroom floor, surrounded by a gruesome scene of blood splattered all over the carpet, walls, comforter, and bed. The sheer amount of blood and the sight of Lauren's lifeless body created a deeply disturbing picture, one that would be unsettling even for the most experienced police officers. Crime scene investigators arrived at the house to start collecting evidence. They thoroughly examined every area, searching for clues to understand what happened that night. The team documented the scene, taking photos, collecting samples, and gathering physical items related to the crime. While investigators searched Matt and Lauren's house for evidence, police officers had the difficult task of informing Lauren's family of her death. After Lauren's sister heard the news that Laura had been killed by her husband, she was jolted awake by the sound of her mother's loud, horrified screams. Rushing downstairs, she reached the bottom to find police officers standing at the front door, confirming her worst fears. Laura was dead. At the police station, the officers questioned Matt about his role in the murder of his wife. However, Matt soon asked for an attorney, and the questioning stopped. Following his request, the police took Matt to the hospital to have a blood test, which would determine if he had used corisodin at the time of the murder. Following his blood test, Matt was taken into custody at the county jail, where he was formally charged with murder. In the aftermath of Matt's arrest, the police launched a thorough investigation into his journals and electronic devices, seeking any additional evidence that might shed light on his motivations for killing his wife. Officers found a disturbing pattern in Matthew's internet history before Lauren's death. He'd researched coitin and its mix with alcohol. They also discovered a secret Instagram account glorifying death, the devil, and American Psycho, with violent anti-Christian posts contradicting his aspiring pastor persona. Matt's toxicology report showed that he had a small amount of cold medication in his system, but not enough to cause hallucinations. This finding supported the idea that Matt was in control of his actions and not under the influence of any substances when Lauren died. Lauren's autopsy revealed that she was asleep on her side when Matt stabbed her. He initially stabbed her on her side, then rolled her over and stabbed her multiple times in the face. The autopsy also found that Lauren tried to fight back, with wounds on her arms suggesting she attempted to defend herself. In total, she suffered 123 stab wounds. On October 5, 2018, Matthew Phelps pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in the death of his wife Lauren. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. During the sentencing hearing, Phelps apologized to his former in-laws, calling himself a monster and acknowledging that his actions were senseless and unjustified. Lauren's mother told the court that Lauren was beautiful inside and out, and that Matthew Phelps' actions had forever changed her life. The case of Rhonda Casto. Julia Simmons resided with Stephen Nicholas, a divorced day trader, in his 3-bedroom home located outside of Portland, Oregon. Julia initially met Stephen online while searching for a rental property and found him to be charming and nice. During their cohabitation, Stephen met Julia's 20-year-old daughter, Rhonda. Stephen, being 10 years older than Rhonda, was immediately smitten with her, drawn to her stunning beauty and captivating personality. As it turned out, Rhonda reciprocated his interest, and they began dating. As their relationship advanced, Stephen and Rhonda became more serious and eventually decided to move in together, with Rhonda relocating to Stephen's condo. During their courtship, Stephen formed a close bond with Rhonda's family, particularly her sisters Melanie and Tessa. Tessa, who was only 9 years old when Rhonda and Stephen started dating, enjoyed spending time with him due to his playful and fun nature. Years passed, and Stephen and Rhonda remained a committed couple, yet they never got married. Rhonda often fantasized about what it would be like to be married to Stephen. Her friends were aware of her strong desire to get married and sensed that she was holding on to hope. Stephen assured her that they would tie the knot in the summer of 2009, according to his plan. After having a baby girl, Rhonda discovered that being a mother became the most fulfilling part of her life. Her daughter became the center of her universe, and Rhonda treasured every moment she shared with her. She was passionate about being a mom and spending time with her daughter. Nevertheless, she also longed to revive her modeling career. As Stephen put it, Rhonda was at her heaviest after giving birth to their daughter. He stated that Rhonda felt self-conscious about her weight. To lose weight, they made a pact to hike the 25 best trails in Oregon together. Stephen insisted that their relationship was thriving, and they rarely had disagreements. He believed that their bond had grown stronger than ever before. Rhonda's friends told a different story, revealing that Rhonda had confided in them about Stephen's abusive behavior. She had previously taken photos of bruises on her back, caused by a fight with Stephen on March 16, 2009, as evidence. However, according to Stephen, Rhonda's behavior changed later on. He claimed that she asked him what would happen if anything ever happened to her and if he would take care of their daughter. Stephen said he replied, "Of course." As the weather worsened, Stephen told Rhonda it was time to head home. But instead of turning back, Stephen alleged that Rhonda wrapped a towel around her shoulders, declared herself Supergirl, and began to run down the narrow, slippery pathway. Stephen stated that he saw Rhonda slip and fall 150 feet down the side of the Eagle Creek Trail. After the fall, Stephen claimed he hiked down to the ravine where she landed because he had no cell phone signal and found her body. Unable to call 911, he had to leave her behind. Stephen then walked to the trailhead, where he finally managed to contact emergency services. Later that day, rescue workers recovered Rhonda's body. Rhonda's family recalls that Stephen showed no emotion at her memorial service. However, Stephen disputes this, saying he cried non-stop, and that when deeply upset, he tends to withdraw and prefer to be alone. After Rhonda's death in 2006, Stephen packed up his and his daughter's belongings and relocated to the other side of Oregon, where his family lived. This sudden move raised suspicions among Rhonda's family, who wondered what had happened between Stephen and Rhonda in the moments leading up to her death. However, Stephen didn't stay in Oregon for long. Later that same year, he made the decision to move to China with his young daughter, marking a new chapter in their lives. Having lived in China during his first marriage, Stephen had developed a deep affection for the country and its people. They settled in Wuxi, a city about 75 miles outside of Shanghai. In China, Stephen found work teaching English to Chinese business professionals. His daughter quickly adapted to her new life, becoming fluent in Mandarin within just 2 months of their move. Both Stephen and his daughter were thriving in their new surroundings. During this time, Stephen met a woman named Landy Yin Yan and fell in love with her. Landy formed a strong bond with Stephen's daughter, taking on a motherly role and filling a gap in the girl's life. Stephen was grateful for Landy's influence on his daughter and appreciated the way she had stepped in to play a parental role. After a year of dating, Stephen proposed to Landy, and to his delight, she accepted. In February 2015, Stephen and his daughter traveled back to the United States, where he and Landy planned to get married. They decided to have 2 wedding ceremonies, one in America and one in China, in order to include both of their families and friends. Stephen and his daughter arrived in the United States a day before Landy did. As Stephen and his daughter stepped off the plane in San Francisco to catch their connecting flight to Oregon, an officer approached him and explained that they needed to detain him due to an issue with his luggage. Shortly after, the police arrived and took Stephen away from his daughter. Unbeknownst to him, while he was living in China, detectives had been diligently investigating his girlfriend Rhonda's death, which had occurred under suspicious circumstances at Eagle Creek. After months of inquiry, they had finally concluded that Stephen was responsible for Rhonda's murder. Rhonda's mother had played a crucial role in keeping the investigation active, frequently inquiring about updates from the detectives. Consequently, the police arrested Stephen at the airport for Rhonda's murder and extradited him to Oregon to face justice. When arrested, Stephen was in disbelief, thinking he was dreaming and hoping to wake up back in China with his daughter Landy by his side. However, he soon realized that this was not a nightmare, but harsh reality. Stephen's bail was initially set at $2 million, and he spent the next 14 months in prison awaiting trial. The judge lowered Stephen's bail to $250,000, and his attorney posted the bond, allowing Stephen to be released on condition that he wear an ankle monitor. Rhonda's family was overjoyed when they learned that Stephen had been arrested for her murder, feeling that justice was finally being served. Rhonda's mother was particularly emotional, bursting into tears when she heard the news. Stephen's arrest brought relief and solace to Rhonda's loved ones, who had been grieving her loss for years. Following Stephen's arrest, his attorney led an investigative team to the Eagle Creek Trail, where Rhonda had fallen to her death. They aimed to conduct experiments to demonstrate to the court that Rhonda's death was an accidental slip, not a push by Stephen. Stephen's defense attorney argued that the Eagle Creek Trail was a popular hiking spot in the Columbia River Gorge due to its beauty. During one of Stephen's preliminary court hearings, the medical examiner, who conducted Rhonda's autopsy after she fell from Eagle Creek, revealed that all of Rhonda's injuries were confined to the area below her waist. This crucial finding played a key role in shaping Stephen's defense strategy, as it enabled his team to propose the theory that Rhonda had taken her own life. The defense team argued that the force of the impact from hitting the ground was responsible for Rhonda's broken pelvis, and that the evidence suggested she had fallen feet first, rather than tumbling head over heels, which would have indicated that she had not been pushed. In addition to presenting evidence about Rhonda's injuries, the defense team also wanted to use notes from her therapy sessions as evidence. These notes showed that Rhonda was depressed, but she never mentioned wanting to kill herself. In fact, Rhonda had described her relationship with Stephen as feeling loveless. Stephen's defense team argued that Rhonda's depression and her description of their relationship suggested that she might have chosen to end her own life. By presenting this evidence, they hoped to raise doubts about the prosecution's claim that Stephen had pushed Rhonda, causing the injuries that ultimately led to her death. Stephen later stated that Rhonda had been depressed and had attempted to take her own life multiple times before they even met. However, Rhonda's family denied these claims, accusing Stephen of lying. They believed that Stephen was trying to shift the blame onto Rhonda to distract from his own role in her murder. According to Stephen, Rhonda had struggled with drug abuse since she was 12, and he claimed that she had experimented with various substances. However, the medical examiner's report only found small amounts of marijuana and prescription medication for anxiety and depression, which Rhonda was taking due to postpartum struggles. Disturbing evidence came to light during the preliminary hearings, revealing Stephen's involvement. It was discovered that Stephen had been in a romantic relationship with Melanie, Rhonda's 16-year-old sister. This revelation raised concerns, as Stephen was in his 30s and Melanie was still a minor. The prosecution argued that Stephen's inappropriate relationship with Melanie could have been a motive for Rhonda's murder, as Rhonda had found out about her husband's secret actions, leading to tension and a possible reason to kill her. After Stephen was arrested for Rhonda's murder, he was charged with 2 counts of third-degree sexual assault and 3 counts of third-degree sodomy regarding his relationship with Melanie, his girlfriend, and Rhonda's sister. While awaiting trial for Rhonda's murder in 2005, Stephen admitted to 2 counts of sexual abuse. He later claimed that he was pressured into making the admission and that it was false, stating that the only reason he pleaded guilty was to regain custody of his daughter. However, the prosecution maintained that Stephen's relationship with Melanie lasted over 4 years. Later, Stephen confessed to having a sexual relationship with Melanie, Rhonda's teenage sister. In a text message, Rhonda called Stephen a piece of garbage and accused him of using Melanie to hurt her. Rhonda's mother testified that Rhonda knew Stephen was trying to create a rift between her and Melanie, and that Rhonda loved her sister and wanted to mend their relationship. The state argued that Rhonda and Stephen's relationship was troubled, The court was presented with evidence of Stephen's deviant sexual past. 6 months after Rhonda's death, Stephen was arrested and charged with 5 counts of sexual abuse for allegedly touching a 13-year-old girl. Initially, Stephen denied the allegations, but later admitted to sending the girl a sexually suggestive text message and a shirtless photo, acknowledging the inappropriate nature of his actions and pleading guilty to 1 count of sexual harassment. During Stephen's preliminary hearings, the state submitted photos of Rhonda's bruised back, taken by Rhonda herself, as evidence. Rhonda's best friend testified that she had witnessed the couple fighting on multiple occasions and frequently heard them arguing in the background. Additionally, Stephen's ex-wife took the stand, alleging that he had attempted to suffocate her and throw her over the railing of their apartment in November 2003, although he was not charged with a crime related to this incident and denied the claims. Rhonda's family is convinced that her boyfriend, Stephen, is responsible for her death, believing he murdered her to collect on a life insurance policy he had recently increased. Rhonda's mother has expressed her suspicions, pointing out that Stephen had lost a large amount of money through day trading the previous year and was struggling financially. Moreover, all who knew Rhonda can attest that she loved her 9-month-old daughter deeply and would never have taken her own life. Despite the lack of physical evidence linking Stephen to Rhonda's murder, the state still believed he was responsible for pushing her off the trail at Eagle Creek. However, the weakness of the case led to a compromise between the state and the defense. Stephen pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide, and in return, he received credit for the time he had already spent in custody awaiting trial. He was sentenced to 3 years of parole, after which his ankle monitor was removed and he was finally released. Rhonda's family and friends were unhappy with the outcome, feeling that Stephen should have faced more severe consequences for his actions. At the sentencing hearing, Rhonda's sister delivered a powerful impact statement, conveying her anger and frustration towards Stephen and emphasizing the devastating impact he had on their family. Rhonda's mother also spoke, expressing her confusion and frustration, and struggling to understand how Stephen could have taken her daughter's life, leaving their family in shattered remains. In a 2018 interview, Stephen made a shocking claim about Rhonda's death. He said that when he hiked down Eagle Creek Trail on the day she fell, Rhonda was still alive. Stephen then asked the interviewer if killing a suffering war buddy could be considered a justified killing, even though it would still be considered a homicide. Although Stephen did not directly admit to harming Rhonda, his comments hinted that he might have been involved in her death. In 2017, Rhonda's mother filed for Social Security survivor benefits for her infant granddaughter, stating that the child lived with her and promising to use the benefits only for the baby's care. However, the state accused Rhonda's mother of misusing the benefits from April 2010 to December 2014, while Rhonda was still alive. Rhonda's mother was charged with stealing nearly $40,000 in government funds over a 5-year period. Her defense team argued that she committed the crime to prevent her son-in-law, Stephen, from gaining custody of Rhonda's daughter. They claimed that her actions were motivated by a desire to protect her granddaughter from exploitation. According to the defense, Rhonda's mother had struggled with depression, which worsened after her daughter's death. To cope with her grief, she turned to marijuana, which clouded her judgment and impaired her ability to think clearly. Rhonda's mother, 53, pleaded guilty to the theft and was sentenced to 1 month in a halfway house and 3 years of probation. She was also ordered to pay back the stolen benefits, totaling $39,100. Rhonda and Stephen's daughter had been in foster care since October 2015, when the Department of Human Services took custody of her. This decision was made after Stephen pleaded guilty to sexually abusing a 13-year-old girl. As a result, an Oregon court terminated his parental rights, although Stephen appealed this decision. The case of Jennifer Dulos. Jennifer Dulos was born on September 27, 1968, in New York City. Her parents were Hillard Farber, a banker, and Gloria Tenberg, a philanthropist. She had one sibling, a sister named Melissa Irene Farber. Jennifer attended Brown University, graduating in 1990, and later earned a master's degree in writing from the Tisch School of the Arts at New York University. Her uncle, Arthur Ortenberg, and his wife founded the fashion company Liz Claiborne Inc. Jennifer married Fotis Dulos in 2004. The couple had 5 children together, including 2 sets of twins and a daughter. Their children were all named after Greek saints. Jennifer and Fotis were married for 13 years until their relationship began to deteriorate in 2017. As time went on, Jennifer became increasingly afraid of her husband. Fotis Dulos was born on August 6, 1967, in Turkey and grew up in Athens, Greece. He moved to the United States in 1986 and attended Brown University, graduating in 1989. A few years later, Fotis earned a master's degree in finance from Columbia Business School. Before marrying Jennifer, Fotis was married to Hilary Vanessa Alama, a fellow Brown University student, from 2000 to 2004. He divorced Hilary in 2004 and then married Jennifer in September of the same year, just a month later. Jennifer loved her children deeply, and it was this love that made her sudden disappearance all the more suspicious to the police. They knew she would never abandon her kids intentionally. Months earlier, Jennifer had filed for divorce from her husband, Fotis, due to the increasingly violent nature of their marriage. She feared for her life and that of her children. The main reason for her seeking divorce was Fotis's violent behavior and his affair with his co-worker, Michelle Troconis, a Venezuelan national. Jennifer had hinted at her marital problems in a 2012 blog post, expressing her desire to become stronger and stand up for herself. 5 years later, she took the step of filing for divorce, citing Fotis's growing independence and his infidelity. Although the court denied her request for sole custody, it granted her and Fotis joint custody. Jennifer lived in fear, not just for herself, but especially for her children. She said that Fotis had a history of behaving irrationally, unsafely, and controlling her, including bullying and making threats. A very disturbing incident happened on June 3, 2017, when Fotis became violent after finding out that Jennifer had planned activities for their kids that Saturday morning. To escape, Jennifer rushed upstairs, but Fotis followed her, continuing to yell at her and physically intimidate her, even after she locked herself in a room. Jennifer saw the danger she was in with her husband. After filing for divorce, she admitted that she was terrified of Fotis and expected trouble. In May 2017, following her divorce filing, Jennifer accused Fotis of threatening to kidnap and harm their children if she didn't accept his terms in the divorce settlement. To make things worse, he bought a gun that same year. In 2018, during the hearing process, Jennifer requested emergency sole custody of her children due to Fotis' history of violating court orders. Consequently, the court granted her full physical custody, while both parents shared legal custody. Fotis was only permitted supervised visits and monitored phone calls. To ensure her safety, Jennifer and the children relocated to a rented house in New Canaan, 70 miles away from Fotis. Fotis had felt genuinely hurt by Jennifer's accusations. In an email sent to Jennifer in 2017, he expressed concern for their children's welfare. He acknowledged that their children needed both parents, not just one. He pleaded with Jennifer to reconsider their marriage for the sake of their children, suggesting they could work as partners and learn to tolerate each other. Fotis has denied the accusation made by Jennifer. In response, he has accused Jennifer of trying to turn their children against him. According to Fotis, Jennifer has called him a psychopath in front of the kids and told them that he doesn't care about them. He also alleges that Jennifer boasted about prolonging their divorce process for 2 years, supposedly so that she could get the mafia to attack him by breaking his legs with a baseball bat. Fotis further denied ever threatening to kidnap his children, While he admitted to purchasing a gun, he claimed it was solely for protecting his home. Fotis's arguments might have been considered credible if not for the subsequent event. Jennifer Dulos was last spotted on May 24, 2019, around 8:05 a.m. After dropping off her children at New Canaan County School, she returned home shortly. Concerned friends alerted the police to her disappearance. Jennifer had scheduled 2 doctor's appointments in New York City at 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Her friends grew worried when she failed to show up, as she was known for never missing her appointments. It wasn't just her friends who noticed something was amiss. Her live-in nanny, Lauren Almeida, became worried when she arrived at Jennifer's New Canaan apartment around 11:30 a.m. and found the Range Rover in the garage. Jennifer had planned to use the Range Rover for her doctor's appointment, not the missing Chevrolet Suburban. Lauren Almeida waited until 7 p.m. to inform the police of Jennifer's disappearance. By then, it was clear that something was off, as Jennifer never stayed out late or left without telling anyone. After disturbing reports surfaced, police launched an investigation into Jennifer Dulos's disappearance. Detectives searched her New Canaan house, uncovering devastating evidence that would shatter the hearts of everyone who cared about her. In the garage, they found blood splatters on the floor and traces on one of the walls and the door. Moreover, they discovered blood traces on the exterior of the Range Rover. Inside the house, blood splatters were only found in the kitchen, and DNA analysis revealed a mixture of Jennifer's and her husband, Fotis Dulos's blood. Further investigation revealed that Fotis Dulos had been at Jennifer's apartment on the day she went missing. According to the police, Fotis arrived at Jennifer's home on a bike, as the tire tracks around the house were too small to belong to a car. He allegedly lay in wait for his wife until she returned from dropping their kids off at school, then shot her in cold blood. Afterwards, he attempted to clean up the crime scene and dispose of the evidence. At around 10:25 a.m., Jennifer's neighbor's CCTV footage showed a Chevrolet Suburban leaving her home, with police believing Fotis Dulos was behind the wheel. They suspected that after killing Jennifer, he hid her body and other evidence, including cleaning supplies, in the vehicle. The car was later abandoned about 3 miles from New Canaan, leading police to think Fotis was a ruthless killer due to his questionable behavior that day. Later, at approximately 7:30 p.m., footage captured Fotis Dulos and his girlfriend Michelle Troconis dumping trash in multiple bins along Avon Avenue in Hartford. What seemed like a normal act was actually suspicious, as they used 30 separate bins. Upon searching the bins, police found incriminating items, including cleaning products, blood-stained clothing, and used gloves. After testing these items, the results confirmed their suspicions. The blood matched Jennifer's, while Fotis's DNA was found on one of the gloves and a trash bin. Fotis Dulos's murder of his wife in cold blood was shocking, but what was even more surprising was that his girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, was an accomplice to the crime. Originally from Venezuela, Troconis was a multifaceted person, a mother, an avid horse rider, and a former ESPN reporter in South America. However, no one would have ever suspected her of being a cold-blooded criminal. Michelle Troconis began her romantic relationship with Fotis Dulos while he was still married to Jennifer Dulos. Her affair with Fotis contributed to the deterioration of his marriage. After Jennifer went missing, the police questioned Troconis. When asked about her whereabouts on the day Jennifer disappeared, Troconis claimed she had lunch with Fotis that afternoon, and also stated that they had gone to one of his properties to clean it up in preparation for a meeting with a client. However, the police suspected that they had actually been cleaning up Jennifer Dulos's body. The police investigation uncovered additional videotapes that implicated Michelle Troconis in a more incriminating manner. These tapes ultimately revealed the details of how Fotis Dulos had committed such a heinous crime. It became clear that Fotis Dulos had meticulously planned his actions, and the police suspected that he did not act alone. On May 24, 2019, Fotis Dulos drove a Tacoma truck, which belonged to one of his employees, to New Canaan, Connecticut, without the owner's permission. A school bus captured video footage of the Tacoma truck speeding on the highway towards Waveney Park in New Canaan at 7:05 a.m. This was the same location where Jennifer's Chevrolet Suburban was later discovered. The police found a bicycle tire in the truck's boot, which supported their theory that Fotis Dulos had cycled the 3 miles from Waveney Park to Jennifer's apartment in New Canaan. The police believe that Fotis arrived at the apartment before Jennifer, attacked her in the garage as she returned, cleaned up the evidence, and then placed Jennifer's body in her Chevrolet Suburban. From there, he drove to Waveney Park, where he transferred the body to the Tacoma truck. As meticulously as Fotis tried to cover his tracks, he inadvertently left behind 2 crucial pieces of evidence, proving his presence in the New Canaan house: a DNA sample on the doorknob and a mixture of his and Jennifer's blood on the kitchen faucet. According to the police, Fotis spent hours cleaning the house, which is supported by the neighbors' surveillance footage showing Jennifer's Chevrolet Suburban leaving the house around 11 p.m. The police became even more convinced of Fotis Dulos' guilt when he made a suspicious move 5 days after his wife's disappearance. Without permission, Fotis took the Tacoma truck out again, and his destination ultimately incriminated him. He drove the truck directly to a local car wash and detail shop, where surveillance video captured a black SUV following closely behind him. The SUV's driver was identified as Michelle Trokin. In the footage, Fotis is seen dropping off the truck at the car wash, then getting into Trokin's SUV. The police were convinced that the couple's intent was to eliminate every trace of evidence from the vehicle. However, their quest was unsuccessful. The police discovered samples of Jennifer's DNA on the passenger seat of the car, which became a crucial piece of evidence. As a result, with the mounting evidence against him, Fotis Dulos became the prime suspect in Jennifer Dulos' disappearance on June 7, 2020. Consequently, he was arrested and charged with capital murder, and kidnapping. It is surprising that Fotis Dulos was not arrested for the murder and kidnapping of Jennifer Dulos until June 2020. Although he had been arrested earlier, it was not for murder. On June 1, 2019, Fotis Dulos and Michelle Troconis were arrested at a hotel in Connecticut, charged with hindering prosecution and tampering with evidence. At the time, the police lacked sufficient evidence to charge the couple with more serious crimes. Both Fotis and Michelle pleaded not guilty to the charges brought against them. Fotis Dulos has retained Norm Pat as his attorney. He firmly believed that his estranged wife, Jennifer Dulos, was no longer alive. Although initially released, Fotis and Troconis were rearrested in September 2019 on charges of tampering with evidence and hindering justice. However, in October 2019, Fotis appeared in court, requesting a dismissal of the charges against him. The judge agreed to review the case and consider arguments from both the prosecution and defense. At the time, Jennifer and Fotis Dulos' children were living with their maternal grandmother, aged between 8 and 13 years old. The court granted the grandmother temporary custody of the children. Fotis Dulos' downfall occurred in 2020. In January of that year, he was arrested and charged with the capital murder of his ex-wife. At the same time, his girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, was arrested for conspiring to commit murder. After their arrests, Michelle Troconis distanced herself from Fotis. In a later interview, she confessed that she had made a grave mistake by trusting Fotis prior to their arrests in 2020. Troconis had allegedly left the $5 million Fotis Farmington home she shared with her daughter. Meanwhile, Kent Mawing, Fotis Dulos' former lawyer and friend, was arrested and charged with conspiracy to murder. The police took Mawing into custody at gunpoint, suspecting that he had helped Fotis and Troconis create a false alibi for the morning of Jennifer's disappearance. During this time, Mawing faced accusations of spousal rape from his estranged wife. After his arrest in connection to Jennifer Dulos' murder, His wife felt threatened and reported to the South Windsor Police Department that her husband planned to kill her with Fotis Doulos' help. The police investigation revealed that Maween was a member of the East Granby Gun Club, a local hunting group. The authorities were informed that a human grave was spotted on a property linked to the club. A search of the property uncovered a suspicious shallow grave. Although no body was found, the police discovered 2 bags of lime and a blue tarp, leading them to believe that a body might have been removed from the site. The grave was discovered in August 2019 with the assistance of a canine. Despite the arrests, however, Jennifer's body was not found, leaving the family devastated. They had been looking forward to getting justice for their daughter, but the arrests did not bring them the closure they needed. In an interview, the family spokesman acknowledged that even if Jennifer's murderer was imprisoned, it would not bring her back, and therefore would not erase the pain in their hearts. Fotis Doulos had his bond set at $6 million on January 8, 2020, but was released on bail the next day. He was required to appear in court again on February 8, 2020. Michelle Troconis was also released on bail, while Douglas Mui's bond was initially set at $2 million before being reduced to over $200,000, allowing him to be released on bail on October 19, 2020. On January 28, 2020, Fotis Doulos' fear of facing the consequences of his actions led to a tragic event. He failed to appear in court for an emergency hearing, prompting the judge to issue an order for his arrest. When police arrived at his Farmington home, they found him unconscious in his car. It seemed that Fotis was unable to cope with the repercussions of his deeds and had attempted to take his own life. He had poisoned himself with carbon monoxide by rigging a vacuum cleaner to his SUV's exhaust pipe, piping it into the car's interior. The police managed to revive him, restoring a faint pulse through CPR. Fotis was rushed to Yukon Medical Center by ambulance and later transferred to Jacobi Medical Center in the Bronx for hyperbaric oxygen therapy. During his hospitalization, his children, who were living with their grandmother, visited their father for the first time since he was accused of murdering Jennifer. The police discovered a suicide note in Fotis' car in which he claimed he was not willing to spend even an hour in jail for something he insisted he knew nothing about. On Jan 30, 2020, Jacobi Medical Center confirmed Fotis' death. His girlfriend Anna Curry was with him the day before, but they drove to court separately. When Fotis missed his hearing, Curry was terrified and told his attorney, who tracked Fotis' GPS to his home. Curry suspected foul play and told the attorney to call 911. Murder charges against Fotis Doulos were dropped March 3, 2020, due to his death, but prosecutors have a year to refile if new evidence emerges. Doulos' attorney, Norm Pattis, claims someone framed his client planting evidence on his porch and wants to clear his name. Michelle Troconis, accused of conspiring to murder Jennifer Doulos, was on house arrest with no significant progress. Her lawyer confirmed the case was stalled, but she had a court date set for August 6, 2020, still pleading not guilty. Michelle Troconis slammed people who judged her without knowing her. She admitted people can be misjudged, but couldn't say if Fotis Doulos was capable of murder. However, she knew trusting him was a waste of time. In August 2021, police investigations led them to a Farmington house on Mountain Spring Road, which had a connection to Jennifer Doulos' husband. They decided to search the house to pursue old leads. To aid in the search, the police brought in Bob Perry, an expert in locating unmarked grave sites. They also deployed a septic tank and an excavator to maximize their chances of finding evidence. Despite their efforts, the police have yet to reveal any information about discovering Jennifer Doulos' body. Connecticut's 2021 domestic violence bill was inspired by Jennifer Doulos' story and named after her and Jennifer Magnano, another victim of domestic violence. The bill received near-unanimous Senate support and was signed into law by Governor Ned Lamont on June 28, 2021. Jennifer Doulos' family still mourns her loss. They miss her dearly, saying her bright personality affected even those who never met her. The case of Belinda Temple. The Temple family were highly respected in their community, especially David, who was a standout athlete. As captain of the KD high school football team, he led them to an undefeated season in 1986 as their star linebacker and defensive leader. His exceptional skills on the field earned him recognition far beyond his hometown, making him a local celebrity in Katy, with many seeking to befriend him. David's success prompted him to pursue higher education and athletics at Stephen F. Austin State University in the fall of 1990. The university offered him a full scholarship to play football, which he gladly accepted. During his time at the university, David's performance on the field was remarkable. His physical presence and relentless aggression earned him the nickname, the Temple of Doom. David met Belinda Lucas, a physical education major and assistant with the football program while at university. Their connection was instant, and their friendship quickly turned into true love. Belinda, a charming blonde, captivated David with her beauty. From the start of their relationship, David was eager to spend all his time with her, often leaving heartfelt notes on her car windshield and surprising her with roses. After 11 months, David decided to take their relationship further. He asked Belinda's parents for their permission to marry her, which they happily granted due to his genuine character and respectful nature. David planned a romantic proposal, taking Belinda to the football field. As they walked to the 50-yard line, the atmosphere was filled with anticipation. David got down on one knee and asked Belinda to marry him. Overjoyed, Belinda agreed to be his wife in the fall of 1992. David and Belinda tied the knot in an intimate ceremony surrounded by their closest friends and family members. Following their wedding, the couple decided to make Katy, Texas, their home. Belinda pursued her passion for education by taking up a teaching position at Katy High School, which happened to be David's alma mater. Meanwhile, David found his calling as a coach and teacher at Hastings High School. As the years passed, David and Belinda's desire to start a family grew stronger. 3 years after their marriage, Belinda gave birth to their son, Evan. Becoming parents brought immense joy to both of them. According to those closest to David, he was an exemplary husband, always supportive of Belinda and ensuring she had everything she needed in all aspects of their life. Friends and acquaintances of the couple reported a different side to their marriage. They witnessed David's controlling behavior towards Belinda, including his degrading comments about her body and her parenting. He would often make jokes about her weight, specifically her big butt, and frequently called her fat and ugly. He also insulted her family, referring to them as crazy white trash. David actively worked to hinder Belinda and their son Evan from spending time with her family. David's frustration with Belinda's physical appearance, particularly after her pregnancy, was evident. He seemed displeased that she had let herself go and was unhappy with her weight gain. Despite his flaws, it was clear that David loved and adored their son Evan and was a devoted and caring father. David drifted from wife Belinda over time. At his high school reunion, he reconnected with an old flame and confessed to a fling. He started spending more time away, telling Belinda he was at happy hour with coaches, but secretly frequented dance clubs for casual encounters, leaving Belinda uneasy about their marriage. As Belinda spent time with her son, she couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. She shared her suspicions with her friends, wondering if David might be having an affair. However, she was hesitant to believe her own thoughts, thinking there must be a logical reason for David's increased absence from home. When Belinda went through their credit card statements, she grew concerned as she noticed numerous charges from upscale nightclubs, making her question David's activities. Confronting him about these outings, he gave weak excuses, which Belinda reluctantly accepted. After this incident, David told Belinda he no longer wanted to share a credit card account with her and opened his own instead. This development further fueled Belinda's concerns, leaving her feeling disconnected from her husband. By the summer of 1998, Belinda and David's relationship was strained, and they frequently argued. They would often go long periods without speaking to each other, adding more stress to their relationship. One evening, Belinda decided to confront David about their issues. She asked him if he still loved her, but he gave a vague response, saying he wasn't sure. However, by the next morning, everything had changed. David had a change of heart and told Belinda he did love her. Belinda was overjoyed when she heard his words. By January 1999, David and Belinda's relationship appeared to have improved. Belinda was overjoyed to discover she was pregnant with their second child, a baby girl, and this news filled them with excitement. At 8 months pregnant, Belinda received a call on January 11th, 1999, from Evan's daycare center, saying he had a fever and needed to be picked up at lunchtime. Belinda drove to the center, collected Evan, and took him home. Their son was 4 years old at the time. David arrived home about 30 minutes later, and Belinda had to leave for a meeting she couldn't miss. Belinda returned home from her meeting at around 3:45 p.m., clearly exhausted. David decided to take Evan out to give Belinda a break. They left the house at 4 p.m. and drove to a nearby park. However, they didn't stay there for long, and David decided to drive to a larger park several miles away. On his way home, David stopped at Brookshire Brothers to buy a drink for his son and some cat food. However, by the time he got to the store, it was already after 4:30 p.m., so he decided not to take Evan to the larger park. Instead, he headed back home. While driving home, David decided to make a quick stop at Home Depot to buy brackets for the baby's nursery shelving. The store's CCTV cameras captured David and his son entering the store. David arrived home with Evan at 5:30 p.m. As he approached the back door, he noticed it was partially open and there was glass everywhere. This immediately raised his suspicions, and he suspected that the house had been robbed. Thinking quickly, David picked up his son and ran to the neighbor's house, banging on their front door and shouting to let him in. The neighbor, hearing the commotion, quickly ran to the front door. David handed his son over to the neighbor and asked him to call 911 urgently, explaining that it looked like his house had been burglarized. Worried about his pregnant wife, David left his son with the neighbor and rushed back to his home. As he rushed inside, he shouted Belinda's name, his voice filled with concern. He ran up the stairs to the master bedroom, where he found Belinda lying in the closet, covered in blood. After David found Belinda's body, he phoned the police. 2 officers from the Harris County Constable's office rushed to the scene in response to 911 calls reporting a shooting. En route, they learned that someone had been shot. When they arrived, they were blocked by David and Belinda's dog, Shaka, who was barking and growling fiercely, preventing them from entering. Just as the officers were about to act, David emerged from the backyard. He calmly and firmly told the officers that his wife Belinda had been shot and was dead inside. The officers ordered David to control his dog before they could enter. David complied, putting the dog in the garage. David was placed in a patrol vehicle, and medical personnel and additional officers arrived. However, David became agitated in the patrol car. The officers explained that they needed to take him to the police station for questioning about his wife Belinda's death. During the interview, David discussed the events leading up to his discovery of his wife's lifeless body in the closet. However, the detectives noted that David became irritated and aggressive, refusing to maintain eye contact and exhibiting restless behavior, such as shaking his body and bouncing in his chair as he spoke. After 3.5 hours of questioning, the detectives remained uncertain whether David was a suspect in his wife's murder, as his responses were unclear and he was uncooperative, making it impossible to rule him out as a suspect. Upon arriving at the crime scene, investigators were met with a horrific sight. Belinda was found lying face down in the master bedroom closet, having suffered a gunshot wound to the back of her head. Initially, the severity of the injury was not apparent due to her long hair covering the affected area. One detective at the scene believed Belinda may have been kneeling when she was shot. The clothes in the closet were splattered with Belinda's blood and brain matter. Belinda was found fully clothed in jeans and a sweater, with her shoes, watch, bracelet, necklace, and rings still on. An autopsy was performed on her body on January 12, 1999, revealing that she had been fatally shot by a 12-gauge shotgun, which fractured her skull. The medical examiner concluded that Belinda's death occurred on January 11th, although the exact time of death could not be pinpointed due to the body's advanced state of lividity by the time it was removed from the crime scene. Additionally, the autopsy revealed that Belinda's unborn daughter would have also died as a result of the gunshot wound to her head, although the death would not have been instantaneous. An investigation of David and Belinda's home uncovered evidence that the shooter had entered through the back patio door, which had a broken panel of glass. However, the pattern of the broken glass suggested that the window was broken while the door was already open, raising suspicions about the circumstances of the break-in. The investigators' analysis led them to conclude that if the back door had been closed when the glass was broken, they would have expected the glass fragments to be scattered closer to the couch. However, the fact that the glass fragments were found in the living room suggests an alternative scenario. It raises questions about the intruder's intentions. Why would they break the glass of an already unlocked and open door when drawers were pulled out and some items were turned over in the home if their goal was to gain entry? After a thorough investigation, it was found that nothing of value was missing. Belinda still had all her jewelry on, indicating that she was not targeted for her possessions. Moreover, David's gold championship high school football ring was left in plain sight on the dresser, and the television was still plugged in, contradicting the notion of a robbery. Given these observations, detectives initially thought the murder of Belinda was staged to look like a robbery. But after further investigation, they realized the true motive was to specifically target and kill Belinda and her unborn child. The break-in was solely to execute Belinda and her unborn daughter. Detectives checked David's alibi and reviewed security footage from Brookshire and Home Depot, which confirmed he was at both places when Belinda was likely killed. As a result, detectives temporarily ruled out David as a suspect and focused on other leads in his wife's murder. When police initially questioned David on the night of Belinda's murder, he claimed to have no idea who might have wanted to harm his wife. However, after a few days of investigation and careful thought, David told the detectives that one person came to mind who might have had a motive to harm Belinda, their 16-year-old neighbor, Riley Sanders. Riley was both a neighbor and a student of Belinda's at their local high school. Because of his frequent absences from her class, Belinda had met with Riley's parents several weeks before her murder to discuss the issue, and as a result, they had disciplined him. Moreover, Belinda had also confronted Riley's parents after he left beer cans in her backyard. The investigation revealed that Riley had access to his father's 12-gauge shotgun, which was the same weapon used to murder Belinda. Furthermore, the detectives discovered that a group of Riley's friends had been involved in a robbery several weeks earlier, during which several shotguns were stolen. During his interviews with the detectives about Belinda's murder, Riley told them what he did that day, saying he was in school. But when the detectives checked his attendance records, they found out he had skipped class in the middle of the day. This difference in what he said and what really happened made the detectives suspicious, and they started looking into whether Riley was involved in Belinda's murder. When they showed him the evidence, Riley agreed to take a lie detector test, but he failed it. Even so, Riley still said he didn't do it and didn't have any bad feelings towards Belinda. Instead, he said that on the day of Belinda's murder, he had skipped school with a friend, spent the day smoking marijuana, and then went to a few friends' houses. He fell asleep on his couch, and didn't wake up until around 6 p.m. when he saw the police tape outside Belinda and David's home. While David suspected that his neighbor Riley was responsible for his wife's murder, the detectives couldn't find any concrete proof to link Riley to the crime. In fact, they confirmed Riley's alibi by interviewing his friends, which raised questions about David's theory. The detectives did consider the possibility that Riley might have killed Belinda and her unborn baby, but they kept their attention on David, Belinda's husband, as the main suspect in the investigation. During their inquiry, the detectives discovered that David was close to a colleague, Heather Scott, a teacher at his high school. David admitted to the detectives that he and Heather had exchanged flirtatious emails and had gone on happy hour outings together, but he claimed their relationship was purely platonic. The detectives questioned Heather multiple times. In their first interview, Heather said she and David had never been alone together, but described their interactions as casual and romantic. This raised suspicions with the detectives. After consulting a lawyer, Heather gave a second statement. In this statement, she revealed that her relationship with David was more significant than she initially claimed. She said they spent New Year's Eve together at her house and had intimate relations. When the detectives asked David about the alleged New Year's Eve encounter with Heather, his co-worker, David admitted it, rather than denying it to protect his pregnant wife, Belinda. David insisted Heather meant nothing to him, saying their connection was purely physical and that he enjoyed the attention. David claimed he truly loved Belinda and would do anything for her. He admitted hurting Belinda by having an affair, but denied physically harming her. 3 months after Belinda's murder, a grand jury gathered and decided not to indict Riley Sanders or David Temple for her murder. Despite this, detectives remained convinced of David's guilt, but they lacked sufficient evidence to link him to the crime. Over the next few years, the investigation into Belinda's murder stagnated, and the case remained unsolved. David moved on with his life, remarrying to Heather Scott. Although David was never charged with a crime related to Belinda's murder, her family remained convinced of his guilt. They made efforts to keep Belinda's memory alive, including erecting a giant billboard over a busy highway and bringing news crews to her gravesite to raise awareness about her case. However, despite their efforts, nothing seemed to change and the tip lines fell silent, with leads drying up. It seemed Belinda's murder would remain unsolved. But everything changed in November 2004 when Scott Peterson was convicted of murdering his pregnant wife Lacey in California, more than 5 years after Belinda's death. This conviction sparked renewed interest in Belinda's case, as prosecutors in Katy, Texas, believed there were numerous similarities between Lacey Peterson's murder and Belinda Temple's. The state had previously secured a guilty verdict against Scott without relying on forensic evidence. Although Texas prosecutors believed David was responsible for Belinda's death, they lacked physical evidence linking him to the crime. The prosecution used Scott's conviction as a precedent to re-examine Belinda's case, aiming to find sufficient evidence to charge David with murder. According to the prosecution's theory, Belinda returned home on January 11, 1999, where David lay in wait, armed with a 12-gauge shotgun. They alleged that David confronted Belinda, forcing her upstairs into a closet where he shot her fatally in the head. After the homicide, the prosecution believed David staged the scene to look like a botched burglary, took his son, and drove around town to create an alibi, which was captured on 2 security cameras. On November 30, 2004, David Temple was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife Belinda 6 years after her death. Despite the arrest, the case was delayed for 3 years before going to trial. During this time, Heather was not charged with any crime related to Belinda's murder, and no evidence suggested she had prior knowledge of David's involvement. In 2007, David's trial began, and his defense team claimed that his 16-year-old neighbor, Riley Sanders, was responsible for the crime. However, the jury found David guilty after just 8 hours of deliberation and sentenced him to life in prison. But in 2016, the conviction was overturned due to the prosecution's failure to disclose crucial evidence. This led to a new trial in 2019, where David was again found guilty of murdering Belinda. Although the jury delivered a guilty verdict, the judge declared a mistrial because the jury could not agree on a sentence. The resentencing hearing was delayed, but it finally took place in 2023. After a few hours of deliberation, the jury found David guilty and sentenced him to life in prison.